as toy collectors, preserving, call it the value of the original release is very important to us. But getting access to buying characters we want is also something. How do these two incompatible forces in toy collecting meet? Well, that's what we're going to explore today, only on Spector Creative. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Toy Guru Neitlich, your host, longtime, lifetime toy collector and toy maker, giving this channel what I hope is a unique voice. All right, well, you've joined us. You've probably been here before, or if not, again, welcome. It's absolutely a pleasure to have you here, whether you're a first-time viewer or a long-time subscriber. Today, we're talking about the art of the minor change. What do I mean by this? So, as toy collectors, we pride ourselves on, well, our collection. It's the fear of missing out, and it's what we're driven by acquisition and bragging rights. And bragging rights go out the window if you could just buy something anytime, right off the shelf, right? You're not going to go around saying, I just scored this really hard to find maskless variant of Wolverine if that figure ships in an open case a few months later. And that's what I call the art of the reissue. How do toy companies balance fan demand for keeping characters out there that they want, but also honoring the collectability? This is a big challenge. It was actually something, believe it or not, when I worked for Loot Crate for a little while, I did some contract work for them before I moved to North Carolina. And they had a big problem because they had a huge amount of inventory. And so figuring out a way to sell off all of this excess inventory that they purchased and keeping it collectible was a challenge. And so, while that was just dealing with actual, product that needed to ship and keeping it collectible, what we're talking about is product that's already sold out that is up for, if you will, a second run or a reissue. But when you reissue a figure, it becomes less common, or it's not, or more common, right? More common. I know how magic cards work. Less rare, and the rarity of a toy is what drives a lot of us to collect. We have our shelves, right? There goes Spidey. That reflect not only what we love and our interests, but these are war trophies, or these are, well, they're trophies. I call them war trophies as opposed to sport trophies because, we're going out there fighting for our figures and hunting for them. So hunting trophies. How about that? That's a better, hunting trophies. That term actually works much better. Yeah, they're hunting trophies because, we go out, we toy hunt, and we bag, a Spider-Man. There we go, Spider-Man. And we want to brag that we got something that others don't have. So when it comes to reissuing a figure, companies have a lot of choices. They can do a direct reissue where packaging doesn't change, figure doesn't change. It gets more of this toy out there, but it dilutes the market. Other strategies toy companies can take is making changes to either the packaging or the product. Now, I'm big in favor of both when done strategically and deliberately, not sloppily, let's say. So, I'll use a few examples. Some I worked on, some I didn't. In Masters of the Universe Classics, when we did a rerun, we put a little burst on the packaging. Do I have one? No, I don't. Oh, I do. Boom, there we go. Ugh. Perfect. Here's Mighty Spector. Oh, wait, no. That burst says created by Scott Neitlich. I'm such a moron. But this burst here, I'm sorry. I just looked over at figures from a distance and I saw the yellow burst. So that type of burst would be on this side here. And it would say the original. That yellow burst there. So I don't have an actual, here's one with no bursts, right? So a burst would be on this side. Boom, right there. So that was a way in the package of indicating that it was a second run. So people who collected their figures in package could keep them and say, I either had the first one or the second one. It was easily identified. But a lot of us don't keep our figures in package. In fact, only about 20% of us do. So what do we do about that? Well, of course, there's lots of ways of changing a figure. You can add details, you can remove details, and I'm talking about like paint ops. You can change accessories. You can obviously, do entirely new head sculpts if you want a tool. The more you change a figure, the more expensive it gets. It's very inexpensive for a company to just turn a machine on with no change. But once you make any change to a figure, whether it's to the deco or the accessories, it becomes a new SKU. And that becomes an issue because then that counts as new development. Whether you're developing an entirely new figure, just a head, a paint change, or an accessory swap, it's still considered development. And it uses up, if you will, a development slot, as opposed to a reissue slot, which doesn't cost money, or, I mean, you have to produce it, but it doesn't have development dollars because you're just producing something that's already been made. And that's that's a lot less expensive for a toy company because it's less labor, if you will. You cut out the design work, you cut out, having to have samples run because you just tell the factory, run the same thing again that you already ran exactly as you ran it. So there's a lot less human power, if you will, involved in that. So going back to the art of the reissue, it's very challenging, and finding a way to keep characters out there. I mean, honestly, the best is just doing like sort of new versions, new Spider-Man, new Batman, which is why you see so many of them out there to keep him on market. But toy companies are very conscious of this. They're very conscious of the collectability and wanting to preserve that. And there's been some innovative ways over the years, and there's been a lot of toys that have kind of violated this over the years that I think really upset collectors. And it's balancing, new sales, bringing in new customers to a brand versus maintaining the existing fan base that does have that scarcity requirement. And scarcity is part of toy collecting, toy hunting, if you will. Even in regular hunting, if you bag a leprechaun, it's a lot more interesting than if you bag a deer, right? You're going to brag about that. So that's what toy companies need to do more and more, is find ways to preserve the hunting trophy, if you will, and to start thinking of these toys as that, because keeping characters out there and keeping toys that sell really well is important, but just as important is maintaining collectability of the original release. Packaging changes are obviously the easiest to do, but once you open a figure and it looks exactly the same, should toy companies be changing these more, or should they just continue to reissue? That's the question I kind of want to pose to you guys, the fan community, is, one, what are some good examples you've seen of this, of reissues that, slightly change a figure? And do you want toy companies doing this? Or would you just prefer to have, the same figures ship regardless of package change or design change? So it's a very personal, collector-specific issue, but one that toy companies should really be paying more attention to. And I think collectors are going to always be divided on. There's never going to be a perfect solution to something like this. Keep the collectability, keep product on shelf. It is a tough challenge, no matter how you attack it. Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing. It's always good to have you here, and your presence is appreciated. Thanks for sharing these videos. It's the best way to support this channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.